Hello and welcome to Cracking the Shell on Psychological Science. I'm Mike Doherty, and today I'm here with Jude Cassidy. Jude, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. I'm glad to be here.
How about I just dive in with my first question? What's one thing people might be surprised to learn about you?
Well, I guess you could probably find online, if you looked at my Vita, that I have a Master's of Fine Arts in Dance from New York University. But you'd have to be looking, and then you probably, that might confuse you, like, what is that about?
So you started out in dance?
Well, I started out in college as an English major.
Okay.
I never took a psych course. I took one psych course, Psych 100.
Yeah, how did that go?
Yeah, not very interesting.
How did you move from being a dancer to psychology?
Well, after I graduated as an English major, I thought about, a friend asked me what I really wanted to do in my life, what I'd be sorry if I'd never tried to do. And I said I'd be really sorry if I never went to New York City and was a New York City dancer. So that's what led me from being an English major to...
Can I rewind just 1 minute?
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Gulf of Mexico.
Where at in the Gulf of Mexico?
Near Pensacola.
Okay, so you're a Floridian.
Except I was like 20 miles from the Alabama border.
Okay.
So, and it got cold in the winter. So it was, it was much more deep south than Florida.
I would have never pegged you for a deep south person. I mean, Virginia, yes, but that's not deep south. Okay, so you found yourself in New York. Did you do any shows or?
I was a modern dancer. I loved being a dancer.
Yeah.
I worked a lot. But after 6 years, I felt like I was getting old. And I didn't want to live in a Greenwich Village in a fifth floor walk up for the rest of my life in a room about the size of this small office. So I started, and I got injured, and I was getting old, so I started thinking about
when you say old, what do you mean, like 25?
I think maybe 27, 26. Okay. I used to look at dancers who were 30 and feel sorry for them. I'm not making that up. So I started thinking about especially because I got injured, I was offered the position to come back since I had an MFA to where I'd gone to college, which was Duke, and head that dance program. And I thought, nope, I don't want to live in the middle of North Carolina longing for New York City. I wanted to be a New York City dancer, and I want to do something where I'm happy where I am. So I thought about it. I thought about law school. I got into law schools. I thought about it, but I happily decided against it. And at that time, there was a new field opening up called infant mental health, which was like radical at the time. Like people would make jokes. What does that mean? Is it you have this little baby lying on the psychiatrist's couch? What does that mean? And what it meant was, the idea that infants and young children have minds and have well-being and can be thriving or failing, and that it's worth scientific study. And it was very much, by the end of the first year, an awful lot about babies and their well-being and their relationships with the close people in their lives. But yet babies can't talk by the time they're 1. Yeah. So it all happens non-verbally. So when this field was starting, and still, it was a lot of videotape and watching those interactions. And scientists were not really used to looking at nonverbal interactions and, deriving meaning from that. And I was looking at these tapes, and the scientists would be talking about, that it was just new territory for them, which is understandable because nobody ever had done that before. But I looked at this and I saw dance. It was nonverbal. I'm used to, as a dancer, I had spent a lot of my time looking at videotapes or movement. Right. So the idea that movement without words can have emotional meaning, that can affect people.
Yeah, this was not foreign to you.
No. And I found I looked at, I loved looking at it. It was just great. It was, when things were going well between a parent and a 12-month-old, it was like the most beautiful romance and beautiful language of movement and connection and synchrony. And when it was not going well, it was, I really put it into artistic terms. It was like a tragedy. They were just missing each other. They were angry, isolated, and you can see all this. And now it's very common. But because of friends, I would there'd be a big conference in New York, and so I would get invited to go as a friend to see, and people suggested some books that I might read, and so
This is all before.
This is all I'm still dancing,
school.
Applying to law school, or. Yeah. Looking at, babies on videotape. And I found that I loved hearing the scientists putting it together and talking about what they were learning. And I thought I would really like to do this. So I started applying to grad schools. And everywhere I went, they said, Mary Ainsworth's at UVA, and you really should, that's the person you should study. And Mary just happened to be the last person I got to. And when I got there, and I was comfortable, UVA, I had friends who'd gone there, and it's not that far from Duke. It's a part of the country I'm comfortable in. Right. And Mary took me out to lunch at her country club for our meeting, and we started talking, and she picked me up in her car, and we drove out there, and we just talked. for, 2 hours eating lunch. And we really never stopped talking till she died, which was 20 years later. And we just talked constantly. She was a big UVA basketball fan, so we could talk about it, as I was, because I'd come from Duke, so there was a bit of a problem.
Yeah, that's a little bit of an internal conflict, I imagine.
It was, but we negotiated that. And she loved to read old-fashioned mysteries, like from the 1940s, and I did too, so we talked about that. But mostly we talked about work, all the time. Just enormous curiosity and excitement, and she was just so delighted, and everything I'd bring to her or tell her I'd been reading, she just wanted to hear about it, and the field was really exploding right then. She'd already done, I was her last graduate student. When I made that transition that first year to grad school, everybody, from faculty to students, everybody would say, wow, this must be like so different for you. A New York City dancer in June, and now in August, you're a graduate school in psychology. Like, it must be just super different. And I had never thought about that, like it was going to be different or was different. And what I said at the time, as soon as I thought about it, and I still think that, is like, I would say, it's not really, I don't see it as different.
I'm just kind of curious if you felt that there was something missing when you started graduate school, or if you really did feel like you were prepared.
I did. And so did UVA. They wouldn't have taken me. I mean, I had really great undergrad record. And
How often do you think that happens nowadays?
0. Like about 0.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't imagine it. I've never heard of it happening. I think it's just changed. People want people who've worked in lab. It's kind of rare to take somebody straight out of undergrad school these days.
Yeah.
You want lab experience. I mean, some of the people that are applying for grad school are just, my gosh, in the old days they could have gotten a job as an assistant professor.
No. I think it's actually a tragedy that we've come to a place where people now think they have to have publications to go to graduate school.
That's right. Yep.
Probably prevents a lot of people from even pursuing it.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother conversation for another day.
It was just that it was possible in that time.
Yeah.
My first semester, I had to TA intro to developmental, and I thought, well, this is interesting. I never took this course. I'm going to be the TA. So I was ahead, a week ahead of everybody else, and I just read it and studied, and when the undergrads came to me, I could explain it to them. Yeah. So I never felt, because I was, in Ainsworth's group, and I'd spent the year before in New York reading all kinds of books and going to conferences.
Yeah.
So I really thought a lot about this stuff and was really interested, and so I felt fine.
So one last question before we close out this session, and that is, like, if you had a piece of advice, just one thing that you could tell your students who were thinking about a career in psychology, going to graduate school or whatever, what would that advice be?
I think, and I do tell the undergrads this now, is that, because I think they may not know it, and I think it's important, like they all picked their undergraduate schools because of a general reputation of that university. Mm-hmm. They probably didn't even know what they were going to major in, but that graduate school is really different. And I think to think of it as a mentorship, as if they're going to be training for the Olympics, and they're going to go to work with that person, and so do all they can to find out about that person, read their work, and then talk to their current graduate students and see what it's like, and just know that you can build a relationship with that person.
You spend so much time with, like you talked about, you spent 20 years talking with your advisor. You build that relationship. It's not you go to it and then it's done and then you move on. It really is a lifetime relationship that you're building. Good advice.
Thank you.
Jude, it's been a pleasure having you on, and we will talk again soon to hear more about the work you're doing in some of the school systems here around DC and Baltimore area.
Great.
All right.
Thanks, Mike. I enjoyed it.
Yep, my pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey folks, this is Mike with Crack in the Shell on Psychological Science, my podcast that I do with my wonderful colleagues Abby, Ben, and Joey here at the University of Maryland. Our goal is to share what's going on in our department and psychology as a whole, while also trying to make it easier for you to learn more about who we are as individuals. We hope you have enjoyed learning about our science and how we're trying to do what we can to make the world a better place. If you'd like to reach out to us and share your thoughts or just say hello, you can email us at crackintheshellonpsychology@gmail.com. That's crackintheshellonpsychology, one big long word, at gmail.com. And while I have you, I want to give a big shout out to Joey Barnett and Jeremy Gordon for producing the music. Thanks, guys.